Welcome to M Squared TechCast, a live show offering the latest news and interviews with the people driving business, technology, and politics in Michigan. Now, your hosts, Matt Roush and Mike Brennan.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you're listening to another segment of the M Squared TechCast.
And we have calling in from where, I'm not sure, Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist II. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Good to talk with you.
Thanks for joining us. Next time we get you on, we hope to have the streaming video of you. We've had some technical difficulties in the new studio, but we're getting all that worked out.
If anybody can figure it out, I'm sure y'all can. So.
Yes. Well, we have the amazing David Phillips here, who's manning the console today. He's one of the co-owners of the studio, so he was working feverishly over the weekend, trying to get all that together. But sometimes technology just doesn't work, right?
Unfortunately, I know that to be true.
Yes. Well, you also today, at least I got it over the weekend, you're going to be a columnist for us on a quarterly basis, and so we posted your first column, and you were talking about sort of the haves and have-nots out there for the Internet. I mean, a lot of people should be having the Internet, and it's very important that they do, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, first of all, it's really an honor to be able to contribute on a quarterly basis so that I can build a relationship with your audience and your readers. So I appreciate you creating a space for me to do that. And yes, my first column is about having access to the Internet for everyone, because it is truly important. In order to really fully participate in today's society, everyone needs to have access to the Internet so that we can deal with some of the information inequities, frankly, and opportunity inequities that exist. And this is true for people regardless of where they live in the state of Michigan. This is an issue in cities. This is an issue in rural communities across the state. And so we need to do everything that we can and really take an all-hands-on-deck approach to make sure that we're connecting all of our communities to the Internet and the opportunity that it represents.
Recently, we had someone on the show, actually about 6 months ago, where she was talking about in the city of Detroit, about 40% of the people in the city of Detroit do not have Internet access. I was amazed. I just never would have thought that.
Well, you have to think about what are the reasons why people don't have Internet access. And it's not simply a matter of build out and infrastructure, which sometimes it gets shortcut into being. There are also questions of affordability and questions of adoption and digital literacy. So the affordability front, having access to high-speed internet, as we define broadband, 25 megabits up, 3 megabits down, that can be quite expensive. We've had some carriers or some internet service providers who try to create affordable alternatives, but all those may not necessarily be available in all areas. How you define eligibility for those can be difficult. So we're hoping to work with service providers in the state of Michigan to really go a step further and make sure that more people have access to affordable internet access. Then this question of digital literacy and adoption, about understanding relevance and understanding about once people have access to the internet, once people can afford it and they have it in their homes, now we need to know what can you do with it? How are their literacy, when it comes to regular reading, how does that apply to their digital skills? What skills do they have? They understand what the internet makes possible for them beyond mere entertainment. Once it becomes relevant to people's lives, then they're more likely to utilize it even further. So these are issues that exist in cities that are also exist in rural communities too, but a lot of times the rural conversation is about the infrastructure build out and making sure that the internet literally can be accessed by people there.
There was an organization that occasionally does press releases and works with communities here in Michigan called Connect Michigan. It's part of Connected Nation out of Washington, D.C. Are you working with them on this?
I think they're definitely part of a broad coalition that's trying to solve this problem, and I'm familiar with the work that they've done here in Michigan and the work that Connected Nation does across the country, and they really have been helpful in terms of really understanding reality. How many people do have access? What level of access do people have, so we can define or determine what areas are currently underserved and how can they be better served, and what role we can play to make that happen.
I know in some areas, determining, you talk about the infrastructure build out, determining where that infrastructure is it can be kind of a sore point with providers, right? They don't want to give up that information because of their competitors.
Yeah, I know that has been an issue in the past. I'll just say that we're going to be encouraging collaboration, because having the information to understand where potential customers are, I think, would be in every business's best interest.
Absolutely. So what, if anything, can the state do to help, particularly in, say, inner city Detroit or in the rural areas? I know there's a lot of efforts going on, but is there anything more that you would like to see the state do?
Well, the first thing that we're going to do is really provide a clear call to action. There has been some previous work done by MCAN in the past, and we want to build on that, which is going in the right direction, and really take it a step further to say that this is going to be a priority for our administration. Connecting our communities to one another and to opportunity is something that we want to do. It's part of how we define infrastructure and investing in infrastructure. So it's our intention to ensure that everyone who wants to be part of the market in Michigan understands how important it is to our administration. And we also want to make sure that those who want to participate in this market have an approach that's focused on a 360-degree internet experience that, again, involves access, involves adoption and literacy, and involves affordability, that we ensure that we are competing aggressively as Michigan-based companies, nonprofits, and partnerships for any and all federal grant opportunities to support these kinds of infrastructure build-outs. We also have now state programs to help point some of those federal dollars in the way, especially towards rural broadband projects. And so we want to make sure that no opportunity is left on the table here in Michigan. This seems to be a moment when nationally there's a broader understanding of the primacy of internet access to the everyday experience. And so we want to make sure that that's understood in Michigan, and that businesses, nonprofits, partners, all are stepping up to take advantage of that, and they know that the state will be there to support them.
Yeah, I don't know how one could get through school these days without internet access. That has to be a real barrier for kids, right?
There's literally something called the homework gap. Studies have shown that children who have access to the internet in their home literally do better on their homework. And so but there are also other outcomes that are impacted by having internet access. If you have access to high-speed internet, you are better able to manage chronic diseases, especially if you don't live near specialized service providers. So think of the people in Michigan who are living with ALS, who are living with diabetes, how they could get access to services and information through telemedicine. Think about the types of programs and services that could be offered in innovative ways when it comes to helping people with different challenges with their mental health. If they could talk to people, if they could video chat with people and have access to those kind of services and supports online. We can make our overall quality of life outcomes in Michigan increase if everyone has access to the internet. That's why it's an important part of any conversation about infrastructure.
In your column, you talk about how it might be, or it is important to have more than one provider, because unfortunately in some areas that's all we have. There is really no choice. You're stuck with, we won't name them, but some of the big boys, yes. And so what do we do to foster that competition? How do you bring in an alternative?
Well, certainly having competitive markets is going to be important, and ultimately we believe it can be better for consumers to have those sorts of options. And so, again, we want to make sure that people who may not have been classical or incumbent players in the internet service providing market, but have ideas or have innovative models, understand that they have an opportunity to participate in these markets, understand that there are programs and on-ramps to this market that they should take advantage of. For example, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has a program called the Michigan Reconnect Program, and our administration has offered a letter of support to a number of applicants for those dollars, which is about $200 million available in federal loans and or grant money. And those are available not just to existing internet service providers, but nonprofits and partnerships and utilities can apply for that funding from the federal government to try to pilot or to jumpstart new models of providing internet service. We want to see innovation in this market in the state of Michigan, and we believe that, once there's a challenge that is clearly defined and clearly understood, that leaders and thinkers and doers in the state of Michigan have the wherewithal to step up and solve these problems in ways that can become a model for the country.
In the old days of cable television, cable TV providers negotiated franchises with individual local units of government. Some time ago, the state sort of took over that function, and those providers now sign a single statewide franchise agreement. Is there any talk of any reform on that level with the state's franchising law for cable TV providers who are also the biggest broadband providers?
Well, I think that there's the relationship between cable and internet access is, again, inherent around sort of how existing business models have worked. I think we want to say that certainly can still happen, but I'm really focused on and excited about what new models of delivery look like. And so there probably will be ways to deliver internet access in Michigan that have nothing to do with those existing or incumbent franchise relationships, and I don't think they are a necessity for success in business going forward. So we're looking to really, I think, expand what's possible in terms of providing internet access in Michigan. There's more than one way to connect the community.
So you're talking about wireless then, or?
I think everything's on the table. We can talk about wireless as far as how it can possibly expand access in new areas. I mean, there are some questions around distance. There's questions around the characteristics of terrain. But if we're going to talk about a conversation with 5G, we have an honest conversation about the fact that I don't really consider that to be a question of expanding access, but to deepening the quality of access in places where there's already density. So yes, there's conversations to be had about different standards. We can look at how we can better utilize educational broadband spectrum to expand access to the internet, especially in rural communities. We have so many educational and religious institutions that have this spectrum as an asset, and we can challenge them to use it for public good because that's what that spectrum is about. The FCC has regulated it for that reason in that way. So there are a lot of opportunities here that exist in the state of Michigan, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of them and is aggressive in trying to take full advantage of them, and again, leaving no opportunity on the table to connect our communities.
Let's talk a little bit about 5G. That's slowly starting to creep in. By the end of the year, we should start to see it in Detroit and some of the other major metro markets. Do you think that's going to really help going forward or not?
Well, I think it helps, again, in terms of the depth and quality of connectivity, which is important when you're starting to think about things like connected infrastructure and autonomous vehicles, ensuring that we have deep and high-quality connections. That will also create the opportunity for new business models around how data backhaul is going to work for all of these wireless connections. So there is an opportunity, again, to innovate in business models there, and I would love for Michigan and Detroit to be a leader in that. I don't think that 5G is necessarily a solution for rural broadband, so we need to think about what the solution for that problem looks like as well.
Okay, a little over a minute left, Matt.
Okay, so is there, what state body or state agency do these questions of yours fall under? Who's going to be working on this?
Well, it's something that I'm going to be taking the lead on, but really this is an interagency enterprise, right? When we're talking about improving the public health outcomes, obviously DHHS is going to play a role in that. When we're talking about infrastructure build out, a lot of this, frankly, is going to be connected to the broader infrastructure plan that we have and the primacy of roads and building them and opening them once and fixing them correctly and building them out right. Part of that's going to be an opportunity to lay conduit on these roads that we're fixing. We've seen success with that. So I think you're going to see a lot of different departments involved here. But what's important is that we're all aligned on the goal of connecting our community. So I don't think it's going to matter too much. There shouldn't be a door that will close on you if you want to talk about a conversation around connectivity, regardless of what department you go into, because it will impact life. So what I would say is that people who have ideas about how to better connect communities can just go to Michigan.gov and pick whatever their fancy is, and they'll find someone who's welcome to have a conversation about connection.
Okay, well, I await to see the commercials that say "Fix the damn internet." How about that? Right.
I like that.
That's pretty clever.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for being with us today, Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist. You're always welcome back anytime. Thanks for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you both.
Okay.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.